All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs presentation, Identity Theft Awareness. And so this is National Identity Theft Awareness Month, so we have a lot of presentations and activities going on to try and help arm you with the tools you need to prevent becoming a victim from ID theft or knowing the resources that we have here if you are a victim so that we can provide that one-on-one guidance with you. I am Carrie Gruby-Liebarker. I'm the administrator and consumer advocate for the department. Been here 20 years, and the educational part, being able to do webinars and go out and do presentations, is one of my favorite things to do. So happy to be here with you on this chilly December morning. So we have our general disclaimer. We're not going to talk about a lot of laws today, but you can always reach out to us if you have questions about anything that we are covering. So we're going to go over what identity theft is after I do a brief overview of who we are at the department, look at red flags, how you can protect your information with free tools, and then what to do if you think you're a victim of identity theft. So here at the department, we are the state's consumer protection agency. We have 47 folks located in Columbia by the zoo on Greystone Boulevard, if you're familiar with the Columbia area. And we're the state's consumer protection agency. But most people know us because you can file a complaint with our office. And I used to say before COVID that we would get between 3,000 and 4,000 complaints annually. But since COVID, it is inching towards 6,000. Last year, it was 5,700 complaints that we got. If a business or an issue is regulated by another state or federal agency, then we'll kick it over to that agency. If it's regulated by us, then we'll engage in a review in our legal division to see if there are any statutes that come into play. And if the business or issue is not regulated by anyone, which occurs about 8 or 9 out of 10 times, then our staff engages in a voluntary mediation of that complaint. And we get about $500,000 to $1 million back in consumer credits, refunds, and adjustments through that process every year. You can also report a scam and report identity theft with our office. We're going to talk again about that today, the subject matter of our presentation. But we want to know what's going on out in the marketplace. And you guys are the boots on the ground. And so when those scammers are calling you, there may be a new kind of technique or a nuance to a scam that we want to know about so we can push out education or press releases and make people aware of that so they don't become victim. And we can also help you if you are a victim of a scam. And same with identity theft. We can provide one-on-one guidance to come alongside you during that ID theft event and help you mitigate it. You can also background a business with our office. So we have an online complaint system, and you can search that complaint system. So before you hand over your hard-earned money, you can make sure that those folks don't have any complaints, mainly that they have not responded to. Just because somebody has a complaint doesn't mean you shouldn't do business with them. But you want to see the type of complaint it is and that there was an actual response. We also regulate 15 different industries. It's mainly consumer credit based, from pawnbrokers to mortgage brokers, physical fitness facilities, credit counselors, pre-need funeral contracts. It really runs the gamut, but you can check to make sure that they have the proper license. And if another state agency regulates them, we have a list of common links for agencies like Labor Licensing and Regulation, who looks at real estate and contractors, and Department of Insurance, which is who we actually refer the majority of our complaints to, are insurance-based, and they go to them. So you can click there too and make sure that those folks have the licenses that they need. We also give free presentations. Education is a core component of our mission here at the department. We do weekly webinars like this. They're usually 30 minutes to an hour every Wednesday on a hot topic. But we also do other webinars throughout the year. But most importantly, we come out across the state and do in-person presentations for consumers and businesses. We'll speak to churches or community groups, a lot of senior centers, just anybody, teachers. We've been all over the place. I know in the last 30 days, from Horry County to Oconee County, just trying to make sure that people have the education they need to know their rights and responsibilities under the laws. And then you can ask us your questions. We have over 50 publications on our website. We have an active social media account on all the big ones, including YouTube as well. So if you have videos that you might want to watch, if you miss one of these Wednesday webinars, we post them on our YouTube channel, have a lot of shorts as well on some popular topics that you can check out. If you have a question and you don't know where to go, call us. We have a live receptionist. We get about 25,000 complaints, or not complaints. Some of them are complaints. 25,000 calls annually. And if it's not something that we can handle, we'll get you to where you need to be. And you can access the majority of these services by going to our website, consumer.sc.gov, clicking on the How Do I tab, And then if you want to learn more about our agency, you can click the About Us tab. We're actually about to turn 50 next year too, so there's going to be lots of fun stuff celebrating that momentous occasion as well. All right, so let's roll into why we are meeting here today. Identity theft. First, I want to go over the differences between a breach and identity theft. We often get folks who reach out to us and they got a security breach notice in the mail. And sometimes they think it may be a scam because oftentimes that notice will say that if you want credit monitoring or some other kind of service, to call a number. And then if you call that number, you have to hand over more personal information so that they can monitor your credit reports or other services related to that. And then oftentimes too, the notice comes in the name of a third-party vendor that you may not be familiar with, that your doctor or somebody else, insurance company, may have contracted with. And so you're like, hey, is this a scam? What's really going on here? And also people get concerned that their information was breached, and they will conflate that with thinking that means somebody's using my information. And it doesn't quite yet mean that. So what is a security breach? It's the unauthorized access to and acquisition of your personal identifying information. So that could be social security number, driver's license number, other kind of government identification. It could be financial account numbers, or it could be some kind of biometric associated with that, or your name and your address put together with some of that information. It's a pretty long list. And then that information, that personal identifying information, was not encrypted or redacted, which means somebody could get access to it. So that's a security breach. So it's just the access component of it. It's when the thief sells it or uses it that you then become a victim of identity theft. And identity theft is essentially somebody who is using the personal information of somebody else so they can pretend to be that person to get goods or services or to mask their own identity. So how can identity thief use your information? They can use your info in the same way that you can. Oftentimes people just think of it as being a financial crime, that it's for credit cards, to get loans, things like that. But it could also be used to get medical benefits, or to file your taxes, or to get a job too, right? Or to pretend to be you if they get arrested, which thankfully we don't see that often, but it certainly does happen. So here's some things to look out for. To see, especially if you have gotten a security breach notice. I think last year in 2023, we had gotten notice of more breaches than we ever have before. Our office actually administers the financial identity theft protection statutes, the privacy laws in South Carolina. And whenever more than 1,000 South Carolina residents are affected by a breach, we get notice of that. We post it on our website, so you can check it out. But we have gotten, I think it was like over 150 or 160 security breach notices in a year that affected millions of South Carolina residents. So it's certainly something that's not going away, and you likely have, if not last year, in recent years, have gotten notice of a security breach. So you want to be on guard to see if you will switch over to being an identity theft victim. So you want to check out those benefit statements because, there may be medical providers that are billing you for services you didn't use. So you want to go through those with a fine-tooth comb when they come in. And then if your health plan rejects a legitimate medical claim, that can also be a sign that you're a victim of identity theft. And lastly, if your health plan won't cover you because your medical records are showing a condition that you actually don't have. Again, somebody else's information being put into yours because they're using your identity. Other benefits: the IRS notifies you that more than one tax return was filed in your name, or that you have income from an employer that you didn't work for. So those are signs that you could be a victim of ID theft. And tax season, I know we don't want to talk about it, it's right around the corner. But if you're getting a refund, you certainly want to file your taxes quickly before anybody else can do so in your name. And then if you find errors on your Social Security statement, that's something else that you should be monitoring on a regular basis. The Social Security Administration has a tool. It's myssa.gov. Again, that's myssa.gov, that you can create an account and monitor your Social Security statements and see if there's employment showing up there that you don't recognize, or something else that's a little off that could be a clue that you're a victim of ID theft. And then with financial accounts, some clues include you see withdrawals or charges from or on your bank account that you can't explain or you don't recognize. Or you find unfamiliar accounts, new accounts or charges on your credit report, or receive a bill or a notice from a bank or a debt collector. Another thing is, what if you stop receiving your bills? That's another clue that you could be a victim of ID theft. Somebody could be mailbox surfing because they don't want you to see the activity that they're putting on your account. And so when that mail comes, they come by and snatch it. Or it could be a loved one or somebody that you trust who's in your home on a regular basis that may be doing that as well and taking that. So just always want to be on guard. So how does ID theft happen? By us. We unknowingly give our information to a scammer or somebody that we shouldn't have. Security breaches, like we talked about, lost or stolen wallets, theft by family or friends that I just mentioned, and stolen mail. But we certainly want you to keep an open mind about scammers and identity thieves. They are going to try and get and use your information in any which way that they can. So no matter the method, they're trying to separate you from your personal information and or your money. So the number one rule, we don't want to give our information to scammers. So if somebody is cold calling you or cold contacting you, it's not just a telephone call, it could be a text, a pop-up, an email, somebody could be coming to your door, or it could be, social media. No matter how you're being contacted, if they are asking for personal information or money, don't do it. Don't hand it over to them. And here are some red flags of scams too that we want to make you aware of so that you hopefully don't hand over information to folks who don't need it. They pretend to be someone you know or recognize. That can be government, that could be a business. They're trying to gain your trust, right? And then they pretend there's a problem or a prize. There's an issue. You need to verify something. I just got an email this morning at my work email that was purportedly from a bank that we don't bank with here at work. I don't bank with personally. And they were asking me if I recognize certain transactions, right? So 'tis the season. We're all out there shopping. And it had a button for me to click to verify, yes, I did recognize the transactions. And at the bottom, underneath that button, it said that I would not be able to use my card until I verified it, right? So there's a problem. They need my verifications for that. And there's also pressure to act immediately. Like the example that I just gave. If I don't click on that, I'm thinking I may not be able to use my card. Again, recognized it was a phishing scam, so I wasn't going to click on it. But if I had clicked on it, they likely would have downloaded malware or something else onto my computer. But they want to put, that sense of urgency in you, and they play on emotions as well. And then they tell you to pay in a specific way. Scammers want money that is like getting cash. So that includes prepaid cards, gift cards, wire transfers. Most recently, we're seeing crypto ATMs or Bitcoin ATMs being used because it's not traceable and it's not likely that you're going to get that money back. So the government is not going to ask for payment in those methods. I remember when we first heard about gift cards being used in scams, it was Google Play cards being requested by the IRS too. The government doesn't want Google Play cards, and they certainly don't want stuff via crypto or Bitcoin ATMs either. So it's those are the common kind of red flags that you see. They pretend to be somebody else. There's a problem or a prize. They give you pressure that they want you to act urgently, and then payment in a weird form or a not normal form either. And they'll only take it in that form. They won't, if you want to pay by credit card, they're not going to take it. If you want to pay by check, likely they won't take it either. All right, so what can we do? I promise I'm not trying to scare you. We're just trying to make you aware of what's going out there and then arm you with the tools you need to not become a victim. So we're going to talk about those free tools that can protect your personal information. They're also helpful if you are an ID theft victim already. So first off, looking at your credit report. So under federal law, you're entitled to one free credit report from each of the three major credit reporting agencies. That's Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion every 12 months. But since COVID, those three have decided to give you a free credit report every week. Don't know if you want to look at it every week, but we certainly recommend that you do so at least twice a year. You don't want to wait until you're going to buy a product or a service where that credit report is being pulled to know that something erroneous or something incorrect is on your credit report, because it takes time to get it right. So you want to be checking it regularly and checking it to make sure that the personal information is correct, because that could be a sign that you're a victim of ID theft, because that information is coming from applications, right? So you want to look at that. You want to make sure you recognize all the accounts on there and that all the balances are correct. You can even look at the hard inquiries section to see if somebody has been trying to open up credit in your name. And the proper place to go for these free credit reports is annualcreditreport.com. And then there's a toll-free telephone number that you can call as well. There's even a form online. We can get it to you if you can't find it, that you can print out and submit to get those free credit reports. Going to kind of go through this. Personal information, that's what you're looking for here. Those credit accounts. Then we have a separate credit reports guide too that has this information in it to walk you through the process of reviewing it. One item I haven't mentioned yet is the public records. So again, if somebody is using your information and they have to go to court or there's liens put against you because they haven't paid bills, this is where you're going to find it on your credit report. What credit reporting companies do is call the public records to put it all into a consolidated report, so essentially businesses can see what kind of risk you are when you're applying for a product or service whenever credit or something else may be involved. When you go get utility services, sometimes they pull a credit report. Certainly when you go get a job, sometimes they'll do that too. So it's not just credit based, but you want to check the public record section to make sure there's not anything on there that you don't recognize. And then these are the inquiry side. And just a side note with the soft inquiries, that's when a current creditor or potential creditors will check your report. It does not affect your credit score. So when you're looking at soft inquiries and seeing those, that's not anything to worry about. It's those hard inquiries, which is somebody who is taking an affirmative step to try and get credit in your name. So if you don't want people looking at your credit report, or if you want some added protections whenever somebody is, including yourself, trying to get a product or service where a credit report is pulled, you can place a fraud alert. And that essentially, it's kind of like multi-factor authentication for, credit or for credit reports being pulled. And essentially what it does is it makes it to where the business that you are applying to or submitting your information to, they have to take extra steps to verify that it is in fact you who is applying for that product or service. And so instead of just showing an ID, they may also ask for a utility bill that matches the address on your ID or your car registration. It's that extra piece of verification. There are a couple types of fraud alerts. So there's a temporary fraud alert. That's for 1 year. It used to only be 90 days, but that got updated. And you don't have to be a victim of ID theft. You can place it just as a proactive protection to get that additional verification. And you can renew it as much as you want at the end of the 1 year. And then if you're military, there's an active duty fraud alert that protects you when you're on assignment away from home. And that is a year-long process as well, unless you remove it earlier. And then if you are a victim of identity theft, you can get an extended fraud alert, and this extends it out to 7 years, but you would have to get an identity theft report, which is a police report and ID theft affidavit to do so. There's extra steps there. So some folks have questions about whether or not fraud alerts affect their credit, and the answer is no. The only thing it does is put that extra step into the process of your credit report being able to be pulled. So it's not going to affect your report or your score. Another question folks ask is, when does it make sense to get a fraud alert? It's just a good thing to have in place. Again, is that proactive measure to try and prevent identity theft. And certainly if you are a victim of identity theft, it could be helpful. So with the fraud alert, it's a one call that's all system. You only have to call one of the 3 major credit reporting agencies, and they'll tell the others to put the fraud alert on their report. And you'll just have to provide a state-issued photo ID, proof of address, proof of, an ID theft report if you're doing the extended one, and sometimes a piece of mail too. I don't even know, as I'm reading this, I think you can honestly just go on, you can call the number and place a fraud alert on the phone. I don't think you have to do state-issued photo ID. I think there's something in the law that says this is the information that you can provide, but I think it's easier than that these days. And then we have the security freeze, which is a level up from the fraud alert. And essentially what this does is it puts your credit report on lockdown. And so if you apply, or if an identity thief applies for a product or service where that credit report is going to be pulled, they're not going to be able to pull it. So only you can see your credit file. If you get your free credit report, that's not going to prevent you from being able to get your free credit report when a freeze is in place. Your creditors on your current accounts are still going to be able to look at your credit report. They want to see if you're, paying your bills for other folks, or if you might become in a higher risk or such. And then some government agencies will still be able to look at it, and companies that monitor your credit file through subscription service that you have will still be able to do it. But other folks are prohibited. And again, especially whenever you're trying to have that extra piece of proactive measure to where no one can get access to your credit report. It's available to anyone. You do not have to be a victim of identity theft to place it, but you do have to contact each of the 3 credit reporting agencies to place the freeze. You can do it by telephone. There's also a form for it online. They have website addresses for that too. We have that in the How to Prevent Identity Theft Guide, which is attached over in your GoToWebinar toolbar. It has all the telephone numbers and the website addresses for each of these. It has the majority of the information actually that we're going over here. So I should have told you that at the beginning. If you're taking lots of notes, don't worry. We already have this in a publication for you. And then it has to quickly be placed whenever you make that request for the freeze. You can temporarily remove the freeze whenever you want to be active in the marketplace. You can request that via email or telephone, and you lift it for a specified amount of time. So if you're shopping, for a car or something, you may want to lift it for 2 weeks. And then after that time period, it'll go back on. It'll refreeze. And then you can, of course, permanently lift it too. And the way that you'll do so is when you place the freeze, you'll get a code, like a special code that you don't want to share with anybody, that you will use to thaw it or lift the freeze. And again, there's going to be 3 of them too, so you'll want to put that in a safe place. So does a freeze affect your credit score? No, it's the same kind of thing. It does not affect your score, but it will prevent you from being able to get credit or a product or service where that report's being pulled. You'll need to thaw or lift it. And then why should you place it? It's the same thing like a fraud alert. It's a great layer of security against identity theft. So if you're concerned about that, it's certainly not a silver bullet, but it is a great tool to have. All right, so let's talk about real multi-factor authentication. So this is something that a lot of vendors are offering to consumers these days. We're just seeing it become more popular, especially this year. So multi-factor authentication is requiring something in addition to a password or login to get access to your account. So it could be like a passcode that you would get through an authentication app or a security key. So you would put in your password, you put in your username, and then a number would pop up that you'd have to enter in to verify. Or sometimes it's biometric. If you have a phone that scans your face, right? Or it can scan your fingerprint. And so you can do this in social media accounts, which we certainly recommend. You can do this with financial accounts. A lot of banks and credit unions are offering this service. Anything you can do to put that extra layer that would prevent somebody who maybe by a security breach got your login information and knows who you're doing business with, they wouldn't be able to access these accounts because they don't have that extra piece of information. You can also set up account alerts. So this can include spending thresholds on financial accounts. So you would get a text or an email or maybe even a call if a purchase over $500 was made, or if a certain balance, your checking account or something gets to a certain balance that you've set, you would get notification. If there's a new login from an unknown device, you would get notification of that, or is this you alerts because of certain activity on the account. All these things are free. And again, it's just those extra steps that helps you, and it helps the business or the agency from not, letting the identity thief be successful. And then credit cards, sometimes they have these for credit report changes. Well, they'll give you notifications. And just want to share a couple of shopping tips too. 'Tis the season. We're all out there. So if you are shopping online, do not use a debit card. A debit card is a direct line to your checking account. And so if somebody gets a hold of it, then they can drain your account. And it could take 4 to 6 weeks for your financial institution to do the investigation and restore that back to you. And there's more consumer protections with credit cards. I mean, first, you're not out the money, right? Because it's not tied to your checking account or your bank. And then the federal law limits you, excuse me, the federal law limits you to paying $50 if you notify the financial institution within 60 days of receiving your statement that showed the unauthorized purchase on there, but these days people are checking their accounts more frequently. They have the alerts, and so they're notifying the bank even faster. The bank may even be the one to notify you because they have certain procedures in place. So you're not out any money, even though the thief uses it. And then some financial institutions also offer virtual cards. So it's not your actual card number, it's more like a token. And so your card number is not being accessed by other folks. So it's keeping it secure. You also want to make sure that whenever you are logging on to websites, especially where you're making payments, that they have the HTTPS for security and the little lock up in the left-hand side of the web browser. And then we also want to advise you to watch what you're sharing online. A lot of folks will put information out there that can be used to figure out your security questions, or maybe even your passwords, right? Like if your dog's name is Chase, your password should not be Chase or Chase123, information like that. So you want to make sure that you're setting also your privacy settings to only let people who you want to see it be able to see it, and regularly check it to make sure that nothing has changed, or there might not be more options available to you to restrict who can view your social media posts. And this is the share with care. Consider what the post reveals. We get grandparent scam reports, and folks will be like, well, how did they know my grandchild's name? I'm not on social media. Is your grandchild on social media? So this may be a conversation that you want to have around, Thanksgiving's past, maybe around the Christmas table when y'all are sharing all sorts of information. You can let them know what you learned here. If you think you've been a victim of identity theft, please contact us. Again, we have a unit that is just solely focused on helping people recover from identity theft. Depending on the type of ID theft that occurs, there's different steps that you can take. So we would provide kind of the foundation for what you should do, as well as a checklist for, how to dispute information on credit cards, or if it's tax fraud, the information for the Department of Revenue and the Internal Revenue Service, and what forms need to be filled out, all that kind of stuff. So we are here to help and happy to do so. All right, so let's see if there are any questions. There's the chat box over in the right-hand side, or the question box, I should say. So we've got something in here. They've changed the format on GoToWebinar, so I apologize if it takes me a minute to get all of this pulled up. Okay, so somebody said to beware whenever you place that security freeze or that credit freeze, then Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian will be reaching out with different emails and solicitations to try and get you to buy their financial products or their credit monitoring or things like that. So you can opt out of that as well, and make sure when you're signing up for the freeze, there may be a box that you can check to say that you don't want to be signed up for their solicitations, or that you would leave it unchecked so that you would not sign up for their solicitations too. So if you don't want them, go ahead and unsubscribe. But this person said it's a small price to pay for the benefit of placing the freeze, and I would certainly agree with that. Somebody else asked if the webinar is going to be posted on our YouTube page. I do believe it will be. Yes. Yes, indeed. Checking to see if there's any other questions. While we're waiting, if a question pops up, again, you can feel free to call us. We're toll free. It used to be just toll free in South Carolina, but we've expanded it because don't know if y'all have become aware, but a lot of people are moving to South Carolina and their cell phones are not South Carolina area codes. So we've expanded it to a nationwide toll free number, and it's 800-922-1594. It's at the bottom of our little footer in the PowerPoint slides. Here, we also have an email. It's scdca@scconsumer.gov. It's our general email you can email questions to. Okay, someone asked if you're signed up for two-factor authentication and then they allow you to skip it in the future, should you? So that's a great question. So oftentimes, if you are logging in from your phone and you're doing so repeatedly, it'll ask if you want it to remember you. And if you feel comfortable that your phone is secure or that your home computer is not going to be accessed by anybody else, you can. I always recommend you just don't. Just like you don't ask browsers to save passwords and things like that. I usually recommend that you don't do so. When you get email saying you have money coming, what should you do? So ignore it and say it's spam. There is a phishing email that you can send it to. I'm trying to think if I have the brochure here. I don't know, Bailey, if you would be able to put the report phishing info from Ditch the Pitch, or is Ditch the Pitch? Bailey, just so y'all know, Bailey is our social media strategist here at DCA, and she is the woman behind the scenes on this webinar today. Bailey, did you attach Ditch the Pitch?
Yes, I did.
Okay, perfect. Let me see if I have a new Ditch the Pitch. We just updated Ditch the Pitch, our guide for guarding against scams, and it has that information. I believe it's on like page, I don't want to guess.
The contact information?
For how to report the phishing, the email address that you report a phishing scam to. All right, Bailey's going to find it and pop it in the chat box for us. And then you also want to reach out to the company, because likely the person who's saying you have money is posing as a business or a government agency. And so you may want to forward it to an email address you know belongs to them by checking it yourself, so that they're aware that somebody is using this scheme to try and get money from folks. But yeah, if anybody reaches out to you by phone, text, pop-up, email saying, you know, you've got money, you're like you have money because of the lottery or something like that, do not respond. And then you can go to a website or find a telephone number that belongs to the business or the agency that they're claiming to be, and reaching out to them that way to verify if that's true. Usually if the government owes you money, they'll just send it to you. They're not gonna reach out to you. And I know there are a lot of like class action settlement emails and stuff that folks can get to, and I would say the same thing. If you want to just search it online and find the information yourself, because there's an actual court system that would be coming through, so you can go to the district court in whatever state that it says it's coming from, or to the asset website for whoever it is that's managing that class action too. But don't click on anything in the email, don't call numbers in that email, anything like that. All right, looking to see if there's any questions. Any more questions? These are all great ones. I appreciate y'all's interaction and participation today. Not seeing any more questions, so I'll let you know about some upcoming webinars that we have. Again, Identity Theft Awareness Month. So we have next week, I'm going to do a presentation on identity theft in the law for consumers. We're going to go over some of those state and federal privacy laws. And then if you're interested, I'm going to go more in depth into those the next day for businesses. We're doing a state and federal privacy law presentation on Thursday, the 12th, to go into those laws. That's more like an hour to an hour and a half presentation there. And then we have another business presentation, but you may be interested to look into the federal safeguards rule. That's the main rule in place for businesses who are financial institutions, which is very broad definition, and how they have to protect your information, what kind of safeguards they have to put in place to see whether or not they think you may be a victim of ID theft even before you report it to them. And they've had some amendments to that rule recently. So that's another business presentation. But again, you may want to educate yourself more deeply on the topic, so I wanted to make you aware of it. And then on December 18th is going to be our last Wednesday webinar for the year, because Christmas is on a Wednesday and our offices will be closed. And that one will be on holiday scams at the normal time for our Wednesday webinar, 10:30. So you can sign up for these webinars by going to our website, scrolling down to the calendar. You can also follow us on social. We post on, so see, we still have the little Tweety bird instead of X there. We're still on Twitter, don't know how long, but we're there now. And then you can check our YouTube channel for topics like this. We have it organized by hot topics, from homeowners associations to ID theft, scams. It has it all listed out there. They even have them chaptered out if there's a particular subject, kind of a subtopic you want to learn about. You can go there to check that out. And then I encourage you, we attached Ditch the Pitch. We've attached the ID theft protection or prevention. We'll say both. And you can request those for free, up to 50 copies, by going to our website. And they're all free of charge. So if you have friends, if you want to add it to your Christmas gifts, we'll try and get it out to you quickly. You can make those requests. Again, on our website, you can go under the How Do I, or you can just give us a call or email that scdca@scconsumer.gov email address. All right, going to check one more time to see if we might have any additional questions. And thank you, Bailey, for putting that. It's page 7 of Ditch the Pitch, the anti-phishing working group, if you get a phishing email. All right, not seeing any more questions. So that's all I have for y'all today. Thank you again for joining us. I hope you stay warm and hope to see you at an upcoming DCA webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day.